What's good? What is good, family? This is RawTruth Media, giving you the raw content that you desperately need. I repeat, like this video, share this video to a friend, foe, or even a hater you know. Tell them that we're live, that we're live, we're live. So I look on social media and I see all these predictions to the game against Jackson State facing South Carolina State. There are some bettors that have Jackson State winning that game. But besides that, you will also hear people say that Jackson State doesn't have a chance to win against South Carolina State. All I do know is the lessons that this team has learned. Some of the seniors, some of the upperclassmen have been around that 2021 team that lost really bad in the Celebration Bowl. And they want to make that right, as well as South Carolina State. South Carolina State has players like Jablowski Green, who is a talented defensive lineman. I think one year he was the MEAC Defense Player of the Year. He wants to do the same thing as he did in 2021, and that's create havoc against JSU. But my question is, family, what is the prediction? Do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game, or will this be a low-scoring game? For some reason, I think this matchup will probably be in the low 20s. Now, this is what I think. And the reason why I think it's going to be in the low 20s is because since Jackson State's offense is new and that they're having new pieces and a new offensive structure, it may take it to the third or fourth game. Who knows? But if this team, I want y'all to hear now, if this team picks up early, remember, this is not no rinky-dink offensive scheme. This is a scheme that Maurice Harris has done well at Liberty. And even though Hugh Freeze was the main play caller, sorry about the background, by the way. Even though Hugh Freeze was the main play caller, Coach Maurice Harris was beneficial. And that's why if you listen to interviews, Hugh Freeze speaks glowingly of Coach Harris's coaching ability. So Jason Brown, who has had experience, he was in the FCS, won all conference on offense, and then transferred to Virginia Tech, and then transferred to South Carolina. For some time. And yes, I believe he's a 6 or 7 year senior. That means he's going to have the most experience out of there as a quarterback. But let's go back to 2021. The reason why, this is what people don't talk about, the Celebration Bowl was a blowout. You can tell that South Carolina State did their homework on a particular game. That game was against ULM. When Jackson State played that game, that was their first loss of the season. And ULM, besides them being a bigger team than Jackson State, they were using extra tight ends and fullbacks to block James Houston. They was chipping James Houston, cutting James Houston to slow down his progress. Now, really, in that game, James Houston, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember him being ejected for the game. He didn't play in the second half. That changed the course of that game, and Jackson State could have beaten ULM that year. But let me digress. All the play action, the seam routes, time of possession, that was from the ULM game. And the failure of Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl, correction, Lisa Bola says he was ejected at the end of the game. Yeah, because he played some in that game, but he was ejected. That affected Jackson State. That affected them because they could have won that game. I stand by that. They could have won against ULM. So In that matchup, people forget Rich Rodriguez was the offensive coordinator for ULM that year. And ULM, remember, that was a team that was picked to win only one game. They exceeded that. I believe they won 4 to 5 games, which was a big improvement. And they were coached by Bobby Bowden's son. So Buddy Pugh was prepared. And one thing they do in the MEAC that I give them credit for, all the MEAC coaches pre-Celebration Bowl, they get together and they work on plays. Whoever wins the MEAC, they have a brotherhood. So when the celebration starts, they're ready to go to beat any team in the SWAC. In the SWAC, it seems like all the coaches, they're not great guys, by the way. They're not doing all that. They're not lending in a helping hand. James Dozier, what's not true? Let me know what's not true. Because what I stated on the coaching aspect of the MEAC, they do help each other out pre-Celebration Bowl. This has been going on for years. And they did that the same way with last year's Celebration Bowl with North Carolina Central. All the coaches in the MEAC was there to help Central, to help them beat Jackson State. Now, tell me if I'm lying, family. If I am, let me know. If I'm lying, let me know. That's what happened. Now, it didn't help at all that for some reason the focus was not there for Jackson State. I don't know if they didn't take it seriously, the Celebration Bowl, the first time. I don't know if, but it was weird as hell. Marquise McDaniel says, how you doing today? My name is Marquise McDaniel, getting ready for the season. I'm getting ready for the season too, and peace and blessings to you, my brother. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Like this video, share this video. All opinions are welcome as long as you're respectful. Let's get it to 30 likes, family, and then after that, let's get it to 40 likes. So back to the game. I wanted to give you a precursor of this matchup to understand what's going on in the present state of the matchup that would come up in 5 days. Yeah, I'm from Texas, brother. Originally from Houston, Texas, but now I'm living in San Antonio. I moved out here, so it's been peaceful. It's good to be home. And for a little bit, I was living in Washington State for a bit. Moved back to Texas, closer to family. Nothing but blessings. But back to my point. I wanted y'all to understand the past to understand the present. And the reason why Buddy Pugh in that press conference gave TC credit, he knows TC Taylor is going to take film seriously. He knows the coaches they have. A lot of coaches came from the MEAC. A lot of coaches run a different scheme. Royal Ferguson, he agrees exactly what I was saying. He says, and I quote, I don't think JSU took it seriously the first Celebration Bowl. They did not. And y'all want to know the difference between the first Celebration Bowl and the second Celebration Bowl? The first one, JSU did not take that game seriously at all. And I'm not trying to take anything away from South Carolina State. You know it. Everyone knew it. Because South Carolina State, and shout out to my brother Kobe from the Blitz City podcast. Hey, y'all be easy on Kobe, man. He's from South Carolina. So him rooting for South Carolina State, it's all good, man. He's family. He rocks with JSU too, but not for that game. Oh, I won't be in Atlanta, man. I had a lot going on, my brother. I had a lot. You know I wanted to be in that game. I wanted to watch that game and just be there in person, but whoever wins the SWAC championship and the MEAC championship, I'm planning to go to the Celebration Bowl. I'm planning to do that, man. But it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a 31-10 blowout like it was in the Celebration Bowl. I just don't think that. Y'all may think that Buddy Pugh, what he was saying was coach speak. I just think he has an appreciation for TC Taylor. Don't forget, when TC Taylor was part of those North Carolina Central squads, they were 3-0 against some talented, I repeat, talented South Carolina State Bulldog teams. So I think that's just Buddy just being real and saying that they're going to prepare hard. And Buddy Pugh, he's no idiot, man. He knows that the players at Jackson State have been hearing that they're going to be a letdown and that they're going to lose. And some of the players have heard that they're going to lose 4 straight games. They've heard all of this. So I believe both teams will play with some desire. That matchup between Jablonski Green and the JSU offensive lineman is going to be it's going to be interesting. If I'm talking to the JSU O-line, I'm telling them, Evans and them big boys they got on JSU, I'm telling them, you want to make the NFL, you got to have a good game against Green. And the whole South Carolina State D-line, because their defense is real. Their defense is real. You got to give them credit. Let's get it to 50 likes, family. Let's get it to 50 likes so we can go on. That's what I'm telling the JSU O-line. Y'all want to make the NFL, you want to be in the name, have a great game. I'm telling Chris Gonzalez, I'm telling Evan Henry, Kirkland Ford, all them brothers. Show up in this game if you want to make it in the pros. Psychology is a good tool, man. So I'm telling you, that psychology be working, man. Yeah, the second Celebration Bowl, Royal, the problem with that one, and this ain't me to put on a dead horse and to talk about Coach Prime all the time, but, family, let's be honest about this. In the second Celebration Bowl, the problem was it was such a distraction that Deion was leaving, and I don't think they had enough time to game plan because Deion was recruiting. That's why JSU fans were saying, hey, let's have the assistant coaches coach that game and see what happens. And plus, in that game against Davius Richards, they did not play zone. Now, I had a lot of people disagree with me, saying, hey, they have to play man to play scouts, and I get all that, but to win the game, I'm not saying you're going to fully stop Davius Richards because I believe he's a draft type of talent. That's just my opinion. But you don't play man-to-man against a dynamic dual-threat quarterback. You just don't. You play zone. Or a matchup man zone. Those are the two defenses you play against talented dual-threat quarterbacks. See, the problem is in the SWAC, there was only the dual-threat quarterbacks. If you're not Andrew Body, most of them were one-dimensional dual-threat quarterbacks. So it was easier just to play man coverage. And if you look at the games that Jackson State played against Texas Southern, even though Texas Southern would lose those games, they put up the best offensive output in the SWAC for the most part because Andrew Body can throw it and run it. He was not one-dimensional. Man, these comments are good. Albert Browser says TC gonna do what Deion could not. It's gonna be a tough game, man, and that's what JSU needs because FAMU the next week. This is FAMU's most after the South Carolina State game. Some may say, and I agree with it, this is FAMU's toughest, most complete team they've had in decades. So FAMU's a more talented team than South Carolina State. You have to beat, if you're JSU, you have to beat South Carolina State. Because if South Carolina State loses this game, their season is not over at all. Marquise Medina says, my record is 8-2 for Alcorn. Alcorn is a sleeper, man. Look at Coach McNair's interviews, man, he been smiling like I don't know what. He knows he got a good team, man. He probably thinks like, man, this is our year. And I don't blame him. Earl Woods Jackson says Prime sabotaged the team by announcing he was leaving 2022. And then 9 or 10 defensive players did not play. Yeah, that affected it. When Coach Prime sat out Niles Gaddy and them dudes, that definitely hurt. That hurt. I stand by that. He should have never said. And it was for something stupid as well. He was a couple seconds late or something, but they knew what he was late for. They knew what he was late for, and they still suspended Niles Gaddy for that game, man. Marquise McDaniel says he said he wants to see Alcorn State and Jackson State in the SWAC championship game. All Mississippi SWAC championship game. That'll be cold. And I want to say shout out to Tomorrow Leader Sports Network. Subscribe to his channel. My brother, man, one of the most underrated channels on YouTube. Knowledgeable, and he's knowledgeable not just the SWAC and MEAC, but also the SEAC. He talks about almost every HBCU team, and he's been consistent, man. That's a day one brother, and he's always there to call, man. Appreciate your calls, my brother. Albert Browser says 5 players on defense did not play because they refused to play for I don't know if they refused to play for Dion, but it was weird, man. They just sat out. The other players, Coach Prime sat them at the game for being quote unquote late. That's what he said. Royal says Richard from Ballagaller Center, my roommate, Mr. Randall, California. Right, Coach. He said all the patio chilling. I like this, man. Reggie Bird came in spicy, man. He said, when you make it about you as a coach and not the betterment of the players, you make those decisions. Yep. Reggie, when I brought that up, people were saying I was hating on Coach Prime. Man, I've been fair on Coach Prime. When he does something wrong, I'll say it. When he does something right, I'll say it. I'm not going to just go with the flow and just sugarcoat things, man. And now people saying, like, when he left, that's when I started being objective. No, because when Coach Prime had that NIL comment talking about it's not about the NIL, it's about the NFL. And when I brought up that the stats that only a few percentage can make the NFL, so players who are not NFL material have to maximize on NIL, I disagreed. And I pointed what I just stated about that. Albert says, if TC coached that last game, they would have won. It would have helped their chances, my brother. They were not focused in that game. And I've talked to a lot of coaches, but when it was announced that Deion was going to Colorado, and they was worried about Jackson State's focus, and they were right. Y'all hit the subscribe button, like this video, share this video throughout all social media platforms. Yeah, Coach Walker, man, he coming in with the flames. He said, he replied to Mr. Bird, he said, don't forget, he didn't hold his own son to that standard. Yep. Ruined a great opportunity. Ruined a great opportunity, man. Now, what's your score predictions of Jackson State versus South Carolina State? Now, I know some of you talking about 40 or 50. I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I don't see it. I think it's too early for it, for both teams. My only prediction, I don't even know who's going to win, but I will say this, and I said it earlier in this video, early 20s. I'm sticking to it, early 20s. Oh, I'm on my phone, so I can't do it on yeah, shout out to Primetime 9705. Yeah, shout out to the JSU Tigers and Band, man, for being elite. Yeah, Coach Prime was the CEO. Coach Prime was the CEO coach and made sure to recruit elite players. That was his job. It wasn't to coach X's and O's. TC Taylor is an X's and O's coach. That's really obvious. He's earned his stripes. He's put a great coaching staff around. Now, if Jackson State loses a regular season game, don't overreact. Don't say, oh, he's not a better coach. When you lose a Shadir Sanders, man, Shadir Sanders, even in the undefeated SWAC years, there were times when there was close games, he had to close the game out. And if Shadir didn't play, you never know. Jackson State probably wouldn't have won. Remember the Alcorn State game that was close? Remember the close Southern game in 2021? Shadir made the difference in that. Miracle Sports says he's got JSU winning 21-17. Primetime says JSU 34-21. Anybody got a South Carolina State prediction win? Marquise has a 31-24 JSU by 7. No, there've been some good scores, man. Good score predictions, man. I know one thing, South Carolina State got some talented running backs, young running backs too. And I'm sure Coach TC is letting his defense know they cannot even allow a crease to go through. They can't allow a crease to go through for them running backs, man. Now, on defense, Malcolm McGee, the DB that transferred from Alcorn, he's a stud, man. Malcolm McGee, and then you got that paired with Jalen Evans. And then Jalen Evans, he had that good game against Clemson. They're going to be battle tested for South Carolina State. And this may be a defensive showcase. I repeat, this may be a defensive showcase. Would it surprise me if the score was 14-17? No, it would not. And the reason why I'm predicting a low score, especially for the Jackson State side, is because since they're implementing the new offense under Coach Harris, I'm giving it time to rectify itself, to be on the standard. I think defense will be ahead of the offense because of the rapport, because a lot of the D linemen is back. And then they added reinforcements. Man, this Jackson State D line is vicious. And y'all gonna see, just like South Carolina State, in Jabrowski Green, you know, throughout the decade, South Carolina State has been producing a D line for years, from Joe Thomas to Javon Hargrave to Darius Leonard and then DBs as well with Jacoby Durant. This is an on-current thing. So this will be a smash mouth, defensive-minded game. Miracle Sports says these predictions are one-sided because South Carolina State don't comment a lot of the podcast, but you can believe South Carolina State believes they can beat JSU. They've been saying that on Twitter. On Twitter, South Carolina State fans, they believe some South Carolina State fans believe they will blow out Jackson State. Now, I disagree with that. And I've told them if South Carolina State wins, it's probably going to be maximizing somebody's mistakes. If somebody fumbles when they shouldn't fumble or bad field position, that's all it takes to win. But I don't agree with them when they say they're going to blow out Jackson State. I think this Jackson State's team is too disciplined. It would not be a blowout from either team. But this is bragging rights. This is SWAC versus MEAC, man. SWAC versus MEAC, man. It gets no better. Get the likes up, family. Now, South Carolina State fans, do y'all believe in Corey Fields? Do you think he gotten better? Or do you think Corey Fields is holding them back? For some reason, Corey Fields just finds a way to be the starter. Q Lou says South Carolina State's offense will not score a lot of points this year. Defense better be stingy. I think the defense of South Carolina State is going to keep them in games. I could bank on that. I could bank on that, man. And I didn't even name, and I mentioned the other players for the South Carolina State defense. I didn't even name Aaron Smith and Patrick Goldbolt. I mean, that front seven is vicious. Whoever wins this game, both teams are going to be sore. Both teams going to be in the ice bath for a whole week. Let me read something. Yeah, prayers to Zay Bolden. I heard Zay Bolden is doing well. I'm glad he's moving well, and I think he should. I think he probably will play the next preseason game. Alan Darby says South Carolina State have been a defensive DB, have been putting defensive DBs to the NFL. Phillip Adams to Leonard, Javon, Joe Thomas, Julius Wilkerson. I remember him. Yeah, they bet. Shout out to Buddy Pugh, man. He'll get you to the league, and that's the best recruiting advice around. You don't need flash. Like I said a million times, to recruit, all you need is substance. You don't need all the flash. You don't even need all the facilities. You just need standard facilities. But if you could put players in the NFL, last night I saw Shaq Davis caught. Number one, Shaq Davis played earlier in the second preseason game than the first one. That means he's winning reps. And he caught that 48-yard bomb from Jameis Winston. And I told myself, Buddy Pugh has done it again. Putting another player that should have been drafted, Shaq Davis is 6'5", 215, can jump like a freaking gazelle. And I'm tired of HBCUs being overlooked. And sometimes in the HBCU community, they've been telling players, oh, you can't get drafted because of who you play. These players can't control who they play against. They play who's ever in the schedule. They don't make the schedule. Q Lou says, JSU has the depth to keep South Carolina State from wearing the defense down. That could happen. Albert says, 40 people in the chat. Bruh can't get 20 likes. Man, this is good talk too, man. Let's get 20 more likes, family. Come on, man. The like button is free, and it helps the algorithm. Demarion Wilson said this game will be very physical. He said, I'm predicting JSU to lose, and I mean many. Now, Demarion believes that JSU is going to lose by a lot. And, hey, he's right to have that opinion, and I hope it doesn't happen. I'm going to be a little selfish here. I don't want any team in this game to be blown out because I want, like, if a team wins by 2 scores and it's entertaining, I'll get that. Report by Albert Browser. Breaking news. Aubrey Miller has signed a $2 million deal. Shout out to Aubrey Miller. And shout out to all the HBCU players who are undrafted, getting deals. If the NFL cannot draft these players, they can make a name by taking someone's spot as an undrafted free agent and getting paid $2 million. Shout out to Aubrey Miller. Shout out to my brother Zoe, Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club. Him and Ken, man, got an amazing show. Subscribe to the channel. He says, tell dude to bet on something. Let me see. Demaria. Zoe said bet on something, man. If you think Jackson, I just don't see Jackson State getting blown out. Oh, he says, Demarion says, I'm saying JSU would not lose. Okay, clarification. Yeah, that was a typo, my brother. He says JSU will not lose. I'm with JSU. Yeah, we got that clear, my brother. Yeah, Zoe in the building, man. Subscribe to Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club. Subscribe to Ken Clark 1400, man. Great brothers. Jackson State alums that keep it all the way real, man. And every time I'm on the road, I listen to their podcast. And the good thing about their podcast, man, I'm glad they podcast be like 3 hours long. It helps to get through the day, I tell you. Man, where the South Carolina State folks at, man? It's all love, man. I don't do this MEAC versus SWAC stuff because we all won HBCU. Now I understand before the game talking trash is all embraced. But the ultimate goal is to put a great product out there. Shit, this game gonna be on ABC, man. Zoe says, y'all better quit playing with Zoe. Right, Christopher Dukes, non-existence, 100, yep. Like, where did they even come from? The MEAC versus SWAC. Like, where's this hostility come from? Cedric Cole says, this team better than last year's. We have upgraded around our talent and include coaching, and we are at least 3 deep at every position. If our quarterback pans out, it will be ugly at halftime. Ooh, man. And I hope Ken and Zoe one day talk about this. Out of all teams throughout the FCS, and I can say FBS, family, have you ever heard of a team who had a top 2 recruiting class being talked about like they're going to be average? And I'm not trying to be a homer or anything, but let's be authentic now. Have you ever heard of a team be number 2 in the recruiting class for 2023 and being mentioned and losing 3 to 4 games? I've never heard of that. But a partner messaged me the other day. He said Jackson State's used to being hated on. But I'm like, I got to be real with y'all. That's beyond hating, man. Yeah, Sean saying 4 games losing. I'm like, damn. Number 2 HBCU class. Wow. Wait. I thought it was number 2 overall. I saw number 2 overall. Both transfer portal and high school. Okay, he put, Christopher Dukes fixed it. He said number 1 HBCU class. They don't talk it like they do. Number 2 FCS class, facts. Alan Darby says, my family went to state. They from Orangeburg, and my grandpa and my father went to state. So, yeah, state is like a second home to me, but some of my family went to JSU too. Yeah, Zoe said number 2 of all FCS. They number 2 of all FCS in recruiting, and now they talking about, JSU may not even be top 2 and all. Man, until they are knocked out, I'm talking about completely knocked out in the SWAC contention, they're the champs. They're the SWAC champs, man, until they're beaten. And that's just paying respect. I don't care if it's FAMU, Grambling, whoever won it the previous year, they're the champs until they lose to somebody in the conference. That's how it goes, man. Q Lou says, the ones they love to hate. Hey, that sound like that Ice Cube song, man. I ain't gonna cuss now. YouTube be tripping on that. Hey, shout out to Orangeburg, man. I got some family in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Even though it's North Carolina, I got a couple family members in South Carolina. So, I mean, Orangeburg, they support their teams, man. They support their Bulldogs at South Carolina State. If they lose this game, South Carolina State lose this game, it's not the damn end of the world. Nobody talking about, they're not going to win. You never know. Now, it's going to be tough to beat North Carolina Central, But also look out for Morgan State. Morgan State will probably have one of the top defenses in the country, coached by Damon Wilson and Coach Sewell. And if they could find their quarterback, I repeat, if Morgan State could just find their quarterback, it's going to be barbecue chicken in the MEAC. Uh, uh, Q Lou, you're right. Loss. Yep. The only people who would say it's not a quality loss is because I don't like JSU. That's all. And we don't really care what they think. They don't know football, man. Again, we're here to talk football. We're not here to go around and I don't, gossip and all that. I, I'm about the ins and out of the game. And it doesn't have to be X's and O's. It could be what you see. But if Jackson State somehow loses game by a field goal or anything, you think I'm going to lose my mind? No. And if they lose this game, does that mean they won't beat FAMU? No, because you play to win the game. Alan Darby says, are you going to North Carolina Central and South Carolina State? If it's later through the year, I may go to that game because I got family in Fayetteville. If it's in November, I could probably go to that game because my mom and them gonna be in there in Fayetteville with some of my kinfolk, and I'm thinking about going a week before Thanksgiving. I gotta check the schedule. But I would like to see North Carolina Central play South Carolina State. I think that'll be a good game. Now I want to ask you guys. Yeah, my phone got overheated, man. Golly. Let me know if you can see me, man. My phone got overheated. It's crazy. Hey, Bink. Golly. Phone got overheated. Are we good now? All right, hit the like button. Man, that stuff was overheated. So we good now, good now. Coach Walker says you was cooking. You know it's cooking in Texas. Yeah, it's hotter than fish grease. It's hotter than, like grandma used to say, it's hotter than Satan's toenails. Miracle Sports says JSU could go 2-2 after losing to South Carolina State and still win the conference and Celebration Bowl. Yeah, pretty much. Hey, Zoe says they gonna think all of JSU is Asian the way we gonna cut them down. Zoe be having them jokes, man. But it's so hot out here. A brother getting splotches, the just heat stuff, man. It's crazy out here. But yeah, I was looking through the schedule for week 0. That Southern versus Alabama State game, man. I don't think some of y'all realize how lit that game gonna be. That Southern versus Alabama State game is going to be a defensive, physical game, and all Alabama State needs is a solidified quarterback. Now, I thought it was going to be D. Davis. I don't know if the offense don't fit his game. I don't know if just things didn't pan out, but there needs to be a lot of questions, man, answered. Now, they got that transfer from UAB. The transfer that Alabama State has from UAB is good, man. And sorry for the background, that little nephew out there. Let me see some more games. And I mentioned Grambling versus Hampton. Lawrence says, I ride down that I might ride down to that Southern versus Alabama State game. Hey, you should, man. Alcorn versus Southern Miss. That's interesting. Prairie View versus Texas Southern. If I'm Texas Southern, you need a statement win. You got to be Prairie View A&M. Now, is it going to be easy? Hell no. Because out of all teams, Prairie View A&M returns, they're too deep. So all 10 of their offensive line is back for Prairie View A&M. And then you put Caleb Johnson paired with those running backs. That's a running game on steroids. Now for PV, if you want to win the West, all you have to do is to capitalize on the 8-man boxes. It used to frustrate me last year. We got all these teams stacking the box against PV and they still weren't running it. I want to see PV be creative, check out of that, do a play action. It's not just the quarterback, because the quarterback shows some grit. That game against Mississippi Valley State, and they were down. And what's the quarterback from? I just had his name down. The quarterback from Prairie View A&M. He went to Duncanville. I just had his name down, but he was willing his team to win. So he has that quarterback ability. It's just got to be consistent. Tomorrow Leader Sports Network says PV is going to be a problem all season long, along with Grambling State and Alcorn State. Alcorn State, there's a reason why Coach McNair, Connolly, yeah, thank you, Coach. If Conley can take what the defense gives him, he doesn't have to be Superman. Sometimes if they allow him to check out of a play, let him trust his judgment, PV couldn't even take their game to another level. I don't even think PV has even unleashed their potential, what they could really do. I truly believe that. Because that running game, that guy is unstoppable. I'm from H-Town. I got family in H-Town. I got family who are PV alums. They tell me all the time, look out for PV. And I ask them, what about Texas Southern? They'll usually tell me, we'll wait and see. We'll see. I'm here to say this right now. I don't think PV has a game below 100 yards rushing. Not one game below 100 yards rushing. I stand on that. Let me see. And of course, the week 1 matchup, Jackson State versus Florida A&M. That game is going to be important for the SWAC East contention. So no matter what happens against South Carolina State, Jackson State still has a chance to win their division and go to the SWAC championship game. But the first game I mentioned out of week 1, Grambling State versus Hampton, I hope Hugh Jackson does this one thing, run the damn ball. And I think last season, Grambling State was trying to find their quarterback, so they was too focused on trying to get the passing game going when he had multiple running backs averaging 5-point+ yards per carry. That's true analytics. Look up the stats. I'm not making this up. If they could find a way to implement the running game with this new G5 offense, which I'm hearing is fast paced, Grambling will make some noise. And besides, Crawley is a bad man. Crawley was held back at Alabama State. Now he's with an offense that fits his game. He looks the part. He's 6'4", 210, 215, strong arm, live arm, good footwork, a true quarterback. And let's get it to 50 likes, family. If Crawley does what I think he does, and I'm not trying to say every team going to win the SWAC, because there's going to be some losers. There may be a team that lets down. There may be a team that surprises people. No one's talking about Alabama A&M, but what if Alabama A&M surprises us? What if they surprise us? So I'm going to look at the MEAC for week 1. That's some good games for the SWAC. You know, the MEAC is always going to have some good non-conference games here and there starting out the week. Let's get the likes up, family. So week 1, we got Howard versus Eastern Michigan, Bowie State versus Delaware State. That's a trap game for Delaware State. I repeat, that's a trap game for Delaware State. Bowie State versus Delaware State, keep an eye on that game. Virginia State versus Norfolk. Not a cupcake program, even though it's Division II. But I think Norfolk State, they're going to take that game seriously. Winston-Salem State versus North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central should handle that. Now, Lawrence Q believes that Bowie can win that one. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, man. I'm there with you. Winston-Salem State, North Carolina Central is a rivalry game. So I expect Winston-Salem State to play hard, but Davius Richards is too much for them. Too much. He's trying to get drafted. South Carolina State, again, week 1 playing FBS teams. They will be playing Charlotte. And here's a game that can put Morgan State on the map. Morgan State versus Richmond. I repeat, Morgan State versus Richmond. Can they upset and beat Richmond? If Morgan State wins this game, everything, not only I've been talking about, but Coach Walker and many others, y'all will start to see what we're talking about. Morgan State is a sleeper. If they win this game, that'll let everybody know that they mean business. Now, I wonder who's going to be their starting quarterback. Is it going to be the brother from San Diego, the white guy, what's his name, Baker? Is he going to be the starter? Or is it the transfer from Old Dominion? Now, people are telling me the transfer from Old Dominion is pretty good. He's a balanced quarterback. He could throw some, run some a little bit. I've seen some of his highlights on the Morgan State page. I would like to see him at quarterback, but I'm not the coach. And Coach Damon Wilson does a great job, so he knows more than me. Carson Baker, he's really just a game manager. That's what he did last season. He only had 7 touchdowns, almost 800 yards, but he only threw 3 interceptions, so he takes care of the ball. He's just too conservative, meaning Carson Baker. But Morgan State, if you look at their roster, you will see a bunch of 350-pounders, 320-pounders. Their D tackles are just strong oxes, man, on that line. So they're not going to be pushed out by anybody. Coach Walker says, he's commenting on Lawrence. He said, "You're right. Bowie State lost to Delaware State the last time, 32-24, if I'm not mistaken. That is true. Should have beaten them the last time, and that's why I wouldn't be surprised. And again, it's nothing against Delaware State. I just think that Bowie State as a program is a reputable program, just like Delta State, that is not going to take ish from no one, and that's going to play their game and treat this like a championship game. Now, even though, and I didn't even mention this team for the SWAC, even though Mississippi Valley State is playing Central, I'm going to be tuned in, especially if it's on ESPN Plus or any team site. I just want to see who's going to be the quarterback at Mississippi State. It's going to be Jones, or it's going to be the transfer quarterback from Mississippi State. A lot of people are telling me Jones is going to be the starter. We'll see. I don't care what the opponent is. I just want to see a win. And I want to see if Mississippi Valley State, can build off that. Because after that game, on the 16th of September, they got Delta State. Delta State, they play hard. You remember when Jackson State played them? They're scrappy. And after that, they played North Carolina Central. And then that schedule picks up after that. FAMU and PV. That's a tough schedule until they get to Prairie A&M. Now, Lawrence says FAMU better not sleep on West Florida. Yeah, didn't West Florida win a Division II title either last year or the year before? Let me know, family. Let me know, family. Let me know. Man, this has been a great discussion. I love it already. We talked so much ball. And back to the SWAC MEAC challenge. What do you think that Buddy Pugh is going to be doing against the Jackson State defense? You think he's going to use the same game plan, a Celebration Bowl, or he's going to look at film of the Liberty offense a year before, or he may just look at what TC did as a coordinator for North Carolina Central? I'll let some friends know that I believe that Buddy Pugh is not going to look at film of the Celebration Bowl because TC was off as a coordinator. TC was doing what was asked of him, and that was to overthrow. Because Deion wants his teams to be air raid efficient, depend on the pass and set up the run sometimes. But that's never been TC's DNA. TC's DNA is a balanced offense approach, incorporating tight ends, fullbacks, running backs, and playing what the defense gives them. That's what TC does. That's why in the Celebration Bowl in 2016 against that talented Grambling State team, North Carolina Central played against them, and it was a 10-9 score. And they almost won the game. So whatever the defense dictates, the offense do. There will be some games where you'll probably see Jackson State throw for 300-plus yards. And there'll be games where Jackson State probably throw for 200 and have a bunch of rushing yards. You never know. And that's what excites me, the unpredictability of the team. No one knows what they'll look like. Coach Walker says West Florida are back-to-back conference champions. Yeah, I heard some great things about that program. The kid that got in trouble for saying the N-word, he plays for that team, right? Because I remember he lost his Florida scholarship. DJ Problem says FAMU almost lost to them when they went to Valley 21. Oh, you talking about against Valley? Yeah, I remember that score, 31-28. I'm telling you, Valley, man, when you play at Valley, that grass, it's tough. And that's a bit of the advantage. Because I don't care how good a team is. When they go against Valley, like, damn, man, we got to play in that grass. It's going to be a long day. They have to think that. Shoot, I would think that if I was an athlete. Yeah, that heat, no joke, man. Coach Walker says West Florida won the national championship in 2019. I think yeah, I think so too, Coach. I forgot his name. He got in trouble for saying the N-word and lost his Florida scholarship, but I heard that he went to West Florida. He's very talented, and that's definitely a game to not sleep on. DJ Problem says Valley is going to be a sleeper team that surprised people. I think so too. Coach Wade, he doesn't like losing. And what they have done is a 180. You see Valley's putting up more highlights on practices. They're engaging in recruiting and social media at a higher level than they did before, and pretty much using that Jackson State playbook in 2021, doing it their own way. The helmets are looking fire, man. I love the Mississippi Valley State helmets. They probably got top 3 helmets in the conference. It's a different flavor at Valley, and Valley is not going to be a pushover. Someone asked me, is Bethune a harder job than Valley? Yes, because of certain situations In Valley, they have a couple quarterbacks who kind of could get it done. Just need a new scheme. They recruited well. Now Bethune Cookman, their problem was never the athletes. Bethune had the weirdest team because the receivers were fast, the corners were fast, the safeties were fast, the athletes were there. It's just the fundamentals. There was times when you don't have a signal caller on offense, which is a quarterback, and a signal caller on defense, you're complacent. You're all over the place. Once Bethune gets that ironed out, you never know because the athletes in Florida, y'all know, they real deal, man. Speed has never been a problem at Bethune. Alan Darby, he says, I know I'm crazy for saying this, but I think UAPB is going to upset some teams. I'm going to check them out. We'll wait and see. They hired the right man. Coach Hampton, I listened to his interviews. He's a good brother. Shout out to the brother Cedric Walker, man. What's good? Yeah, Marcus Stokes is a quarterback, incoming freshman at West Florida. That's who he was. Had a scholarship to go to Florida, got in trouble for saying some words he definitely shouldn't have never said. And man, I heard a crazy rumor, and it was just a rumor, so don't charge it to my heart, family. But I heard there was an HBCU that wanted to offer Marcus Stokes, but the pushback was so great that they reneged on it. I heard it was multiple HBCUs that he could have played for. Lawrence Q says, I like the new UAPB's coach. I like his coaching style. I like the professionalism. I like the direction. When he explains his team and what his team needs to look like, it's a great detail. So if they lose games, it's going to be because there's a lack of talent in certain positions. Yeah, he was part of the ULM coaching staff, especially the one that improved their record from 1 win to 5 wins. And I know people will offshoot 5 wins, but that's a big improvement because nobody thought that year in 2021, people thought that ULM was not going to win a game at all. Remember, the Sun Belt Conference in 2021 was difficult. They had a bunch of teams, upsetting teams. They had a couple teams in the top 25. It was a juggernaut conference. So much so, if you look at the TV deals, the Sun Belt does better than the Conference USA and other small schools because of the quality of teams they have. And when you have quality teams, you're going to be put on TV more. Coach Walker says, unfortunately, that was Albany State. Yep. Coach Walker says Albany State was the first offer, and then Alabama A&M, and then someone else looking to offer him, but quietly backed off. Yeah, we're gonna forget that Albany State tried to do that, man. I like Albany State, but that I wasn't feeling that, brother. I think everybody in this chat agrees with me on that. I don't care how talented a player, man. When a person that's not of our culture says that word, it's not it. But yeah, I agree with you, bro. I had somebody inbox me 2 weeks ago, no lie. There's like, what if Mississippi Valley State upsets North Carolina Central? I told them if they ever do that, and I don't think that's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough unless North Carolina Central overlooks Mississippi Valley State. And I don't see that happening because watching North Carolina Central, the few games I watch, they take every game seriously. But if they upset them, everyone's going to be put on notice. Shoot, if I'm Coach Wade, I'm treating that game like the national championship. If I'm Coach Wade, I'm telling my team, he probably is going to do it. He's probably going to tell them, look, if we beat these guys, we're set. If you beat the defending HBCU champions, it won't even matter how many games Mississippi Valley State wins the rest of the year. Give Coach Wade an extension if he beats North Carolina Central. You heard it first. I don't care what the rest of the record is throughout the season. You beat that team, you're set, man. But man, it's been a great discussion. I try to speak with y'all outside, but damn, it's so hot outside, man. The other day it was 111 degrees. You talking about a brother baking like a frying pan, man. It's hot as hell. Can you imagine what winter's gonna be? But I want everyone to stay safe. It's good to talk ball. We should do this more often. And I want y'all all to, before I leave, to hit the like button, share this video throughout all social media platforms, support all content creators. We're all in this together to produce quality content. Peace and love, family. This is RawTruth Media, and I'm out. Y'all have a blessed day.